Okay, Amber, how you doing? Thank you so much for submitting your work. Now, I've got a lot to say here, so I'm going to throw a lot at you right now. So please let me know if you have any questions. But let's go through your writing first. I'm still working getting article text. I understand that. Okay, so you're saying you haven't figured out how to move the title left-hander up so it's not invading the text below. Let's go ahead and jump over it. So you're talking about this text right here. Now it depends. It depends on if it was typeset grouped within the mind of a left-hander. So if that's all one typeset, what you would do is just come into your leading settings and you would reduce the leading. That's the space between two lines of text. So again, if this is compiled as two lines of type, you would just go in and reduce the leading, and that's going to pull that up closer to the first line of the headline. Now, if this is set or placed separately, all you would do is just come to your selection tool, select that and nudge it up using your up arrow to bring it closer to this. Okay, next in your writing, you say, this might have been text moved up. Okay, you're saying that I didn't have the option to save as page 2 to 3, and you do. I mean, it's there. Basically, what it is this. This is the PDF, and this is the setup of the magazine ad with the grid in place, right? So all you would do is come over here to File. I'm at the top of the screen in the word File. I'm going to drop down to where it says Export. So we have File, Export, and that's going to say that it's going to bring up this dialog box. You're going to select Adobe PDF Print. When you say Save, that's when you're going to find that option. So I say Save, and then right here, ranges 2 to 3, save as spread. You export that and it'll drop that third page. So it's definitely there. Okay, but it's in the file export command. Okay, move up. The page partial won't let me. The suggestions regarding my image on the left-hand page. And yes, I will talk about all that. And then I found this kind of odd, this configuration with the type right here. I'm not real sure what happened there, but it's probably something that you forgot to delete and saved it out as a PDF. It wouldn't happen to arbitrarily throw that type in there. So it's something that you did. So always remember that. I mean, the software doesn't have a mind of its own. So quite often when we see things and we're like, how did that get there? It's typically something we placed that we had forgotten to address before saving. So all right, let's go ahead and take a look at the composition itself. I think the main thing right now is that everything is jammed over to the left-hand side of the spread. So this would be the gutter of the spread, the center fold in the article itself. I think right now you've got 3 infographics, and that's about too many. You don't want to overwhelm your reader with infographics in a text article. So I'm saying that 1 is probably going to suffice. Probably one of these 2, being that this one's monochromatic. I think these 2 have a little bit more of an interesting color palette. I would stick with this one. I think this one's really interesting. So we can get rid of those 2. Use this one as your image backup. I think one of the things we see here is we've got the 4 types of column, which are definitely set up in the setup, right? But what you're doing is you're using each individual column as a text column. And what that does is it creates really super short lines of text. We've also, in conjunction with those super short lines of text, you're also using justified settings for your type, which I don't recommend. When you've got such short lines of type and you use justified, it has no choice but to add these enormous spaces. What justified does is it redistributes the spaces to place spaces between words instead of at the end. Now, my preference in setting type is always to go left aligned, rag right. So left aligned would give you this uneven rag right, which I think is much more interesting in terms of negative space and engaging negative space into typographic composition. But with the line line lengths are so short with those type columns. And what I want to show you what to do is instead of placing your type right over here, okay, so for example, place it here. There's your first. There's your first. Sorry, my computer's acting weird. So there would be your first type block, okay, and then there would be your second. Right, see how short those are? Instead of doing that, what you can do here is just take those and span it 2 columns instead of 1. So over here, you would take your type and you would come over here and span it 2 columns. So there would be your first type block, and then here would be, whoops, I need to do that, and do this. There would be your second type block. Okay, so you're consuming 2 columns of type instead of 1 for your type, your text boxes. And I think that will definitely alleviate that issue of having, well, I'm really having a problem trying to select that. There we go. That will alleviate the issue of having those really short text lines. So I would recommend that. I think, honestly, the biggest thing I can see right now is your typeset isn't bad at all. You've only got a couple of critical errors right there. That is a widow. You don't ever want to have one word at the end of a sentence sitting on a line alone. And then also, this is your baseline alignment. That should be aligned. Other than that, I would say I want you to kind of redistribute the text. You've got all your text jammed here. Let's figure out a way to we can really use the negative space here. Let me show you a couple of examples. This, I think, is a really good spread right here. And you can see this one has really distributed white space up through here. And I think this would be an interesting fix for yours. So basically what we could do here is we could set up a headline, use a lot of negative space here, introducing the mind of a left-hander, really use some negative space up there. Then you can even continue to introduce the article, which is called a deck head. So you have your headline over here, right? And then you have a deck head, which is a little introductory paragraph, usually set in a bold typeface. And that says in the mind of the left-hander, and it kind of introduces, then you come to your text selection and your body copy. And a really good idea is to use a drop cap. That's a drop cap right there. We can see other drop caps and other right there. It's a really great technique to kind of tell the viewer where the article starts. So a nice drop cap. You've got a little bit of a drop cap, but I would go at least 2, maybe 3 spaces deep on that drop cap. Again, just try to redistribute the weight of the distribution of the body copy by placing it over in a double page spread. And once you get your type columns, your two column type spreads, type columns on a left and right hand side spread, then you can start trying to figure out where you're going to place your type in conjunction with this image. So if we follow something like this formula here, we would have you have your headline area, your deck head, your byline, which is who the article is written by, drop cap, and then 2 columns of text, each spanning 2 of the 4 columns of within the grid. Okay, and then we'll bring it over here and maybe add your type, your infographic left versus right, maybe in this column right here. You could add a caption above and then continue the text on the other 2. So again, in summary, you would have the big headline area right here with lots of open space, a little deck head introducing, drop cap, then we go straight to the 2 columns of type, spread through the 4 columns within the grid. Then we'll move this right over here, maybe present this in the left-hand column, the 2 columns, then give a nice caption for the infographic, and then continue the type in the right 2-hand columns there. And that will really open up a lot of negative space and really allow the viewer to have more of a resting space instead of just kind of really jumbled up, everything really jumbled up here. Okay, now the main thing, I think it's really super important that you get out there. Here's another interesting article. Again, you see the headline area, a lot of negative space. There's the deck head. There's the byline, so who wrote the article. Big drop cap here, then continuation over here. This is called a pull quote. Please feel free to use that. And then each section is introduced with a little bit of a bold subhead and then another drop cap that's smaller. Think of hierarchy, so that would be smaller. But I think at this stage, really the name of the game here is getting out there, really doing some visual research. Look at as many magazine spreads as you can. See if you find one that you like, if you really like it. Maybe even try to mimic what you see. And I'm not saying copy. Note I didn't use the word copy. We don't copy in graphic design. We use other pieces for inspiration. So I would highly recommend that you go ahead and use other articles. Look at as many articles as you can. See what you like, see what works, see what you think might be applicable to this article, and then just go ahead and start applying. But my recommendations earlier, I think, would really work out very well. So try those. All right, great job, great start. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or if I can clarify anything I've said in the last 10 minutes, please let me know. I'll be glad to do so. Other than that, thank you very much. Where did I go? Whoop, there I am right there. Sorry about that. So again, Amber, thank you very much for submitting your work. And again, the most important thing right now is to get with me if you have any questions at all. Okay, thank you very much.